Okay, recording. Okay, in summary, we're talking about vitamin D today. Yeah, okay. Anyways, a lot of people are worried about vitamin D and calcium and osteoporosis, and this morning, the Wall Street Journal and a lot of the other national newspapers have published an article of a consensus conference of where they asked some of the leaders, the specialists, people most knowledgeable about calcium and vitamins and osteoporosis to get together and what should we be doing. Okay? And I'm going to go into some detail, but first I'd like to quote their conclusion. For most people, taking extra calcium and vitamin D supplements is not appropriate. Okay. Over the past few years, they say, and I would agree, almost all of us have heard that we all need extra calcium. There's extra calcium in orange juice now. Of course, it's in milk. They're adding it to all kinds of other foods. You know, they advertise calcium and vitamin D in dairy products as being very important. And so they are worried about that. They also point out that very high levels of supplemental calcium and vitamin D may have side effects like kidney stones. Now, this is different than a lot of other papers which have concluded that more calcium and vitamin D are actually good for you. Because there's a batch of research studies, which they don't go into and I don't have in front of me. But basically they look at people's blood level of vitamin D. And if you have a low blood level of vitamin D, you have a higher risk of hip fractures and heart attack and stroke and cancer and death. But they just said, now wait, listen, pay attention now. But they just said that extra calcium and vitamin D don't help and probably unnecessary. But there's a number of research studies that show if you have low blood levels, and they also point out that now that we have cheap available vitamin D blood tests, up to 80% of the population may be classified as having low vitamin D. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through some logic. Remember logic? Remember the class in logic? Remember logic from algebra? Me either. Anyways, something works like this. Okay, so here's what I'm telling you. See if you buy this. Low vitamin D in your bloodstream, more cancer, heart attack, stroke, and death, and hip fractures and falls, and everything bad. So, people said, gee, why don't we give people extra vitamin D to raise their blood levels? Okay? Because low blood levels, bad. Okay, so I'm going to tell you one study, and they reference a couple of these. But in Australia, there's one particular study which I find very powerful. They found about 3,000 women with low vitamin D levels who were kind of, well, I would call it late middle age now, in their 60s. I used to call that old. And they were at risk of getting hip fractures and falling. They had low vitamin D, and other studies of giving people vitamin D have been kind of wishy-washy. They haven't been that good. Low vitamin D in your bloodstream, and those people get more hip fractures, and then they go and give people vitamin D. So in this study, they said, we're going to prove that vitamin D is good. We're going to give each woman in the vitamin D treatment group a giant, powerful, monster dose of vitamin D to start the year. One dose, several 100,000 units of vitamin D as a big slug. And then we'll measure their vitamin D levels, and that way other studies that have failed to show the advantage of the tablets Probably because they were bad patients. They weren't taking their pills or something. Because we know, lots of research, low vitamin D bad. Increased death from heart attack, increased heart attacks, increased stroke, increased hip fractures, increased cancer, increased death from cancer. Lots of research showing if your blood level's low, but then the studies are kind of iffy. So we'll do a good study here in Australia. 3,000 women. Every year for 3 years, they got this giant pill. And they took all this vitamin D and they measured their blood levels, and their blood levels of vitamin D went up. And at the end of 3 years, they measured the number of people that had fallen, broken their hip, had osteoporosis. What should have happened is the group that got the vitamin D should have had better results, fewer fractures, less osteoporosis, less falls. The people who got the extra vitamin D did worse. I know you're angry. I know I feel like the Grinch that stole Christmas telling you this bad news. What should happen is, we know how vitamins are, this is what you think. I know you think this because I think this. Low B12 is bad. Heart causes brain damage and neuropathy, anemia. Low B12 is bad. Take more B12, good. Fix that. And some people go to the doctor once a month, get an extra booster shot of B12. You ever heard of that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's because too little is bad for you. Just right is okay. And extra, just like Mae West, too much of a good thing is just wonderful. Right? Well, this research on vitamin D suggested that the extra vitamin D did not help and actually hurt. Now, I want to tell you, if you go back and look under vitamins on YouTube, I have been telling you this story, this bad news, Grinch who stole Christmas story about vitamins for about a year now. This year, in Consumer Reports and in Reader's Digest, they've had big articles on this paradox. The paradox is, you find a vitamin, when it's low in your bloodstream, it's bad for those people who have it low. Then they do a multi-million-dollar study. They give half of the people that vitamin, half don't get it, and instead of the vitamin making them better, they do worse. So I'll give you another brief summary. Vitamin A. Carrots, carotene, good for you, right? Eat your carrots. About 10 years ago, they noticed lower risk of lung cancer if you had more vitamin A in your bloodstream. So who sees lots of lung cancer? The Veterans Administration. They have all those veterans smoking cigarettes, right? Going to the VA. We know what we can do to help our veterans. We will study 17,000 veterans. And some of the group will get nothing, a sugar pill. Some people will get vitamin A. Some people got vitamin E. And some people got vitamin A and E. And at the end of a multi-million-dollar study in thousands of veterans, what did they find? The vitamin A didn't help. And the group that got the high doses of vitamin A had more of another complication. They had more hip fractures. So if you look in the Walmart and the GNC store, you'll find that vitamin A doses and what you can buy has gone down. You used to be able to buy these big 50,000, 100,000 unit tablets, and you can't anymore. They've taken them down because they're frightened about too much vitamin A. Okay, well, I can't understand that, but everybody knows B vitamins are good, right? B vitamins can't be bad for you. B12, folate, B6, those are good. You can't take too much of those, right? Okay, here's a story. Arteriosclerosis is hardening of the arteries, and they narrow and they close, and you get a heart attack if it's in your heart. you get a stroke if it's in your brain, and you lose your kidneys if they narrow the arteries to your kidney. Okay? Diabetics are particularly prone to narrowed coronary arteries, arteries to the brain, arteries to the kidney. And so diabetics get stroke, they get heart attack, and they get kidney failure because of arterial sclerosis, hardening of the arteries. Now scientists have found there's a chemical in your bloodstream called homocysteine, and when that goes up, arteries narrow, and people get more heart attack and stroke and death, and people with high B12 and high B6 and high folate have lower homocysteine and lower risk of heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, and death. So they took a bunch of diabetics and they gave them sugar pill or a bunch of plain old buy at the grocery store B vitamins. Just published this summer, the diabetics who got the B vitamins had worse kidney function. The B vitamins at high dose hurt them. Okay, I'm not happy. So, how can we explain this? Lots of studies, including the one I'm referring to this morning, they say high doses of vitamin D and calcium, not so good for you. But we know that more vitamin D in your bloodstream is good for you. Why is it that the tablet doesn't do what's in your bloodstream? Okay? People who have high vitamin A in their bloodstream, less cancer. People who got tablets of vitamin A didn't help. People that have high B vitamins in their bloodstream do better. People who got tablets did worse. How can we explain that? Okay, I want to talk about two things and then come back to explain that. I want to talk about the fin of a shark and the jaws of the shark, and I want to talk about a canary in a coal mine. Okay? If I'm swimming, imagine with me, I want you to do a thought experiment. In fact, I want you to imagine that this is like Oprah. This morning, you're like an Oprah, and I'm Oprah. And I say, each of you reach under your chair now, and you're going to pull out tickets for a free trip to Hawaii. Okay, so now if you were Oprah's audience, ah! Right? But this is imaginary. There's no free trip. But in your mind, we all fly to Hawaii, and we all go down to the beach, the warm ocean water, it's very gentle, and we all decide to swim out a bit. And we swim out a little bit more, and then over there we see a shark fin. Big. Big shark fin. Okay? Now, the shark fin scares the pants off me. And I believe I could outswim some of you, so I'm not as worried as I could be. But still, the shark fin scares me, but the shark fin doesn't kill me. It's the jaws of the shark. Okay? Let's go back to our vitamin A. Okay? The vitamin A tells us something. Tells us there's a killer in the water. But it's not the killer, because we gave vitamin A and it didn't fix it. We gave vitamin D and it didn't fix it. So how can we explain it? The vitamin A in the bloodstream is the fin of the shark. And what we think is, it tells us what kind of healthy diet that patient's eating. Okay? What we like to believe is that, like, I got up late this morning and I had to rush over here to come and see you. So driving here, I was talking on my cell phone, answering emails, shaving, and I wanted to eat breakfast at the same time, plus put on my makeup, right? If I could eat a Twinkie and drink a Diet Coke, that would work well with driving over here to see you guys, right? But a salad, a fresh salad, that's not going to work well in the car. What we as Americans would like is we would like to have a Twinkie in the glove compartment, have a Twinkie, a Ho-Ho, a Snowball, a Snickers bar, a cup of soda pop, a coffee mug that's non-spill, so in case I'm driving and getting an email at the same time, you know, I won't spill my coffee. And then we want to solve that problem of eating unhealthy by taking a vitamin. What this research shows, that doesn't work. That taking vitamins, probably okay to take a little, high dose is bad, and the fin of the shark is telling us, eat a healthy diet. The fin of the shark is telling us that vitamin D tablets don't help, but how do you get a low vitamin D? By staying out of the sun in the dark. Low vitamin D means you haven't been outdoors in the sun. So what it may be telling us, you can't fix that low vitamin D and get the benefits of a person with a high vitamin D by just taking a tablet and getting, if you were to find that shark and cut off his fin, could you still swim in the pool with him? No. Even though there's no fin, even though you cut the, in other words, people say, I think I'll fix the vitamin A level. That's like cutting off the shark's fin. Now that the fin is gone, I want you to go swimming in this tank with the shark. What do you think about that idea? That changing the vitamin D level doesn't seem to help, but the vitamin D is the fin of the shark. It's telling us there's a shark in the water. And what it's telling us is go outside. Go take a walk. Go out and get in the sun. We are not designed to be in the dark and eat a highly processed junk food diet. We need to eat healthy foods because there's more to it than just that vitamin. So blueberries, yes. B vitamin by itself doesn't seem to help. Fresh green salad, a tomato, green onions, yes. A multivitamin tablet, well, but it doesn't help. The multivitamin is telling you that you're eating a crummy diet if you have low vitamin A and low vitamin D and low B vitamins. It doesn't mean you can fix it while you're drinking a soda pop and eating a Ho-Ho by taking a multivitamin.
How can you achieve the correct level for the food that you're talking about eating? For example, how can you obtain enough vitamin D with carrots? You can only eat so many and only contain so much, right?
Right.
So how does one promise?
Well, again, the big issue for our patients is that I have information on over 6,000 people that have gone before you.
Yes.
Okay? So now you could ask me, of your thousands of patients who are sending you thousands and thousands of vitamin levels in their blood, are there a lot of people with low vitamin A? Nope. Are there a lot of people with low vitamin D? Yes. But there's a lot of people in the society who don't have my surgery who have low vitamin D. And so the question you could ask then, Dr. Rutledge, like this, you know, the student in class, okay, I heard your lecture, but what should I do? I think the answer is not to worry about whether you eat a lot to get your vitamin D up. I think it is go outside. Every day, every single day, as unclothed as is reasonable.
What about calcium?
Well, again, before today, I said lots of extra calcium. Now, not so much. Instead, to get your bones stronger, you know what you have to do? Well, I'll give you a hint. Let's suppose I put your leg in a cast for 6 weeks, for 6 months, for 6 years. Now I take your leg out of the cast 6 years later. Can you imagine what it would look like after 6 years in a cast? Really scrawny. Do you think the bone would be very strong in there? Okay. Now, during those 6 years, one group of people get quarts, tons, boxes of extra calcium. The other group, not so much. That leg is still going to be withered. The most important thing isn't the calcium, it's to go put weight on it. If your leg is in a cast, if you're immobilized and can't walk and can't get up, then your bones tend to get soft. The most important thing for our patients is to go out. I think this research shows that some extra calcium is okay, but there are people who kind of go nuts. Again, they think if one multivitamin is good, 10 must be perfect. And I used to think that. If you look in my manual, I used to recommend very high doses of multivitamins, and what the research is telling us, it's not the vitamins themselves. It's more to it. A carrot is not vitamin A. Let me say that. It's kind of obvious, but let me say it again. A carrot is not vitamin A. And vitamin A doesn't mean that you can have a highly processed meal from McDonald's and avoid the carrot and be healthy. What this research, I think, tells me, and what they're concluding, is that you can't get healthy by that pill. Now, America, we're ready to get healthy with a pill. I like getting healthy with a pill, right? But if you can't go jogging this afternoon, how many have a dog? Take the dog out for a walk. A dog walk takes 20 minutes. Get the dog out, and that's about how much time everybody should be out in the sun every day, plus you're walking. Annoying, up out of the couch, I don't want to do it, but that may be much more valuable than 100,000 units of vitamin D and 2 calcium tablets. That's what this research, I think, shows. Again, think back to the Australian study. They took women who had low vitamin D, they gave them tons of vitamin D, and what happened? It didn't help, it actually hurt. Not because vitamin D is bad, but because vitamin D is telling us something about those women. That they didn't get up and get outdoors and take their dog for a walk. Get up, get out. Now, so that dermatologists don't chase me down and tar and feather me and make me leave the city, we don't want you to say, oh, Dr. Rutledge said I need sun, so this Saturday I'm going to go out and lay naked in the sun for 8 hours and get a burn. No, remember, that's skin cancer. But we're saying every day, 20 to 30 minutes, get out in the sun at the minimum, and that's very important for us for health. And I know that that can be annoying and difficult, but I'm sorry, that's what we have the best research on right now. That your best health is not served by gigantic intake of calcium pills. You know, I have people come in with these big giant bottles, you know, taking calcium and vitamin D and all this stuff, and I was supportive of that. I think the research now shows walk the dog. Eat a healthy breakfast, cut up an orange, have a banana, have some blueberries, have some oatmeal, have some yogurt, healthy food. And for lunch, healthy food. And you can't make up for it. Not that you can't occasionally have junk food. But if you want health, it doesn't come through a vitamin tablet. That's what the research this morning shows, and dozens of other studies, which I don't have time to go into this morning. And again, if you want to get a nice popularized version of what I just said, Consumer Reports and Reader's Digest both have very good summaries of this latest research. The latest research, annoying as it is, basically says vitamins alone don't help and could possibly in high doses hurt.
What about Slim Fast or Ensure as a supplement, not instead of, but did that?
Yeah, let me do that as a separate video. So let me finish this other vitamin before I finish this. I'm going to come back to that because it's a really good question, and there's new research on that too. So I apologize if I told you, you know, I feel like I told you there was no Easter Bunny, and because everybody likes vitamins. Is that clear? Did that do a good job of explaining that?
Yes.
And did I mention to follow me on Twitter? No. All right, now we got another good question.